We have Jake Y here from Platinum Brands, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his story today. Jake, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, for sure. My pleasure.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, let's set the stage here, Jake, on why, Platinum Brands started, right? How did you start this company, and why did you start this company?
Sure. So I started the company always kind of because I've had an entrepreneurial bug, right?
All right.
It was really about marrying a passion for language communication and relationships into a business venture. So when I was in middle school, I had a really deep affinity for foreign languages. So I was a self-taught polyglot. I learned a bunch of languages when I was in middle school and high school. And that sort of drove an interest towards the wider scope of communication. So the immediate idea was to get into some type of communications or language field, so I chose to move into marketing communications. So that's sort of a start, right? Branching out into different areas of the communications world. So that started with Marcom, and we are really a strategic communications and public relations firm.
So I hear all the time that founders, right, especially successful founders, something drives them, something did anything in your past happen that just, gave you the spark for entrepreneurship,
Sure. So, I'd say that I'm pretty independent and motivated. And obviously everybody has, the personal reasons, right? And maybe the chip on the shoulder type thing, which, I don't want to get too much into, but, I'd say that I definitely have my own personal motivators for why I was so driven to start something young and make it successful. But, there's a lot of external motivators, right? It comes from wanting to do something exceptional, the personal chip on the shoulder thing that I talk about, and also just, combining passion with skill, right? I mean, when you're good at something and you love doing it, it generally results in great work.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about, Platinum Brands, right? If in one sentence you just describe what you do, your main focus, what is?
I would say that we help brands communicate messages to their target audience, whatever that might be. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And so who are your consumers? You have is it consumers way out there? Is it other businesses, right? Who do you market to?
We are B2B, so we work with other firms or individuals if they are, say, figures, right? So we work with political figures, brands like companies and corporations. So it's generally loftier, the idea of whatever a brand is, right? So we work with brands.
Yeah, okay. Well, one of the main reasons I wanted to invite you today, Jake, is because you told a story at one of our startup Juntos that I thought was absolutely amazing, right? And that story involved you going door to door for one of your initial clients, right? Is there any chance you could kind of tell the audience that story? Because I think that's very powerful.
Absolutely. So, when I started the concept of the business, right? So I was never really sure about how to build a business, right? So I've experimented with a bunch of different things, ranging from, online magazines to these, online businesses and everything. But, eventually I sort of became a little bit more driven to do a business that was an actual tangible service that was cash heavy, that, it said, okay, well, my business is not just about raising funding and this, that, whatever. It's actually a cash flow.
Oh, you actually get paid for it.
Yeah, exactly. Paid and have cash flow to grow the business.
Yep.
So I thought, okay, well, what can I do, and what am I good at, what am I interested in, that I can bring to market, right? So the initial thought was, well, why don't I do something with my interest in language and communication? So how could I spin that, right?
Okay.
So I said, okay, well, why don't we do Marcoms, right? So I read a lot about PR and about general communications and marketing communications, and I said, okay, well, let me start my own agency, right? So I basically spent summer of 16 riding around Philadelphia with flyers, knocking on people's doors, and saying hire me and hire us. Blah blah. It was really just me, but hire us to do.
Did you have an intern or something, or was it literally just you at the time?
It was just me on my bike and just knocking on doors and handing out Microsoft Word documents that said why hire me or why hire us. and I had no experience and no idea what I was doing. But somebody took a chance. After a lot of no's, there was one yes, and coincidentally, that first client was a bank, so it was a good first win to have a client, and they gave me a good budget to do marketing services. So
and that's great because it gives you credibility too, and it's probably your bid was probably so competitive compared to anyone else's for the bank itself that it was a win-win, right?
Yeah, I mean definitely. It was higher than I should have gotten for what point I was at. So
good salesperson, maybe.
Yeah, it was high. It was higher than what I should have gotten, but it was definitely now with the industry, it was competitive for sure. Yeah.
And so like for me, right? I've always been very personally very nervous about just going out, knocking on people's doors, right? And I know that a lot of people are the same. Like you think to yourself, well, there's no way somebody's just gonna let me in without an appointment, right? How did you overcome that personal fear?
Oh, I hated it. I mean, it was terrible. It was just looking at the the bigger picture, right? It's kind of like one of those obstacles. Like I had to wade through rough waters to get to paradise, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I hated every second of it. It's horrible, right? Nobody likes solicitations. Nobody likes people bothering them. But it's like without having done that, it would have been really difficult to get started. And I mean, yeah, there's nothing pretty about it. It was horrible, right? People just look at you as like the most annoying. But it's just part of the equation.
Yeah, got pushed through it, right? What did you bring with you? Did you bring anything with you, like physical, assets, like printouts?
I brought this backpack.
Oh, you still have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
And just like literally Word documents that I printed out from my school printer. So
a logo yet or no?
I did. I paid somebody $20 to develop our logo, which we still have today. I don't even know if it's like actually even if there's like trademarks on it. It's bad. We're working on an internal rebrand anyway. So, but yeah, the logo. I did have a logo, so that was one thing.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. One of the things you mentioned is that you tried some online businesses before Platinum Brands.
Yeah, all with terrible failure.
Let's talk about the failure. Yeah.
I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial bug, right? I used to make Harry Potter wands and sell them on eBay when I was in middle school and elementary school. But I kind of got this.
Don't lie.
I kind of got this obsession with building like a bigger company, right? Something that was more substantial than just eBay money, right? So I kind of tried chasing the crazy, unattainable, become a millionaire in 30 days thing, right? Which was stupid, now in hindsight, like that never works. At that point you don't understand that a business is driven by value creation. It's hard to create $1 million in value in a few days, especially when you don't have a lot of skills or resources to bring to market. So, I did everything from like starting a little greeting card company that I realized didn't have the capital infrastructure to sustain beyond printing it out from my parents' printer. I started, like an online magazine for luxury and lifestyle that was terrible. I started like some affiliate marketing type thing and tried building blogs, and I called a venture capital firm and said I wanted to develop a language learning software, and they were like, okay. There was everything. I mean, if you name it, I probably tried it in high school.
Yeah.
And none of it worked. I mean, the only way I started making money, right, was when I started doing landscaping, right? Which every entrepreneur has done landscaping at some point, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, every entrepreneur has cut grass or trimmed trees, whatever. But it was kind of cool because I was making actual money, right? So at that point I was like, okay, well it's not, I'm not buying Maseratis here, but like, I'm making money, right? So that's where I was like, okay, well, I kind of see what's happening here. I'm bringing value to the market in some capacity, and people are paying me for it. So that was step one, right? And then after I finished high school and started college in Philadelphia, I started scaling that idea of bringing value to the market, and then charging for it, right?
So, all right, so let's talk about that. So, you've scaled your business, you've scaled your team, right? But you haven't changed your logo, for instance. So, what things have you changed from that first client you got to like present day that have made the most dramatic impact or increase in your business?
Oh, there's so many things, right? So, system, right? Just having a system of work, and also just being better at the work that you do, right? Because
knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge, right? I'd say knowledge is the biggest one, just general knowledge, because I'm just being honest and saying I did not know what I was doing, right? I didn't even know what public relations is, right? So yeah. I just knew that it was the field of communication and it was this, that, whatever, right? And it's still a misunderstood field by a lot of people, but just gaining mentors and knowledge and studying really great firms like Gollin or Weber Shandwick or these other amazing firms that do such consequential work, right? Definitely drove me to learn a lot more about the craft. And by doing that, the quality of work that you can bring to the table for your clients really, really goes up. So knowledge is number one. And then number two is just understanding how a business works, right? I had no idea how to run a firm, right? Because there's so many variables that come into play as you grow, right? Are you properly charging, right? Are you servicing clients?
How do you decide that? How do you decide if you're properly charging?
We generally base our rates based on retainers, and those retainers are based on hourly estimates for the scope of work for a specific client, and then of course we have different blended rates for different services. I have our standard billable rate, right, as a firm, which is going to be a blended rate for different services, okay. And I sort of calculate in a margin of error into that rate, right? Because if we make that rate minus X dollars per hour based on over servicing account, we're still making money, right? So if we hit that rate on the dot, I'm making really good money, right? And then if there's work that sort of balances out by having a lot one month and a little the next month or whatever, based on the need for service on that account, it generally sort of balances off. And gives you a range where you're having a profitable account. So it's a combination of things how we price services, but we've gotten much better at it.
How do you recommend I'm sure there's like generic ways or tools or something that you've used to make sure that you don't get burned, right, by a relationship. If you could generalize, perhaps, what kind of advice would you give to other founders on, how to make sure that, their costs, right, and then what they're charging has, a nice padding, but also protects them, from going over scope or X, Y, Z.
Well, there's a lot of things to take into consideration, right? Because everybody has a different philosophy of doing business, right? Because sometimes going over scope isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's one thing that I learned too. As a young agency, one thing that you can always improve upon is your work, right? And sometimes when you're sticking to traditional hours, right, and you don't want to go above hours, work is going to suffer because there's going to be pressure on your team to say, oh, we need to stay within budget on this account, stay within budget. Honestly, screw that. I don't want to. We're not allowed to curse, right? So.
You can curse if you want to. It's going on YouTube.
Because the thing is, the number one priority should be that your clients are getting great work. Because if maybe you're going 10 hours, 20 hours over on that account every month as a small business, you're not hitting your optimal profit targets. But if that client's getting great work and you go back and say, hey, are you happy with what we've been doing, right? The client says, yeah, this is, I've never been treated this well by an agency. Okay, well, here's, what we've done, right? And in order for us to sustain this type of work and keep getting you these results, then this is what we need to charge, right? And they're not going to get as much sticker shock because they're going to say, okay, well, I see what I'm getting now and whatever. Because the truth is, sometimes a new client that gets a big price quote from a new agency is going to be a little bit apprehensive about moving into that relationship without seeing some value first. So, the Weber Shandwicks and the Gollins can get away with massive, massive price tags without any validation beforehand with the relationship. But as a young agency, you shouldn't be afraid to kind of go the extra mile for the clients, because ultimately that's going to pay more dividends than making sure you're on the money. But that being said, it is extremely important to make sure that you understand where your team's resources are going, right? Because an agency like ours predominantly makes money on the efforts, knowledge, and skills of our staff, right? So if I have a staff member that's way overworked and I'm essentially billing way too little for them, the value that they're bringing to the table diminishes because I'm not getting compensated for having that talent, right? So the truth is you need to sort of find that balance, right? So softwares, right? Understanding how this industry operates was a huge advantage to the growth that we're seeing now, because you need to be able to track and take account for everything that's happening within your business. So make sure you understand what type of softwares other agencies use to get a handle on it. I mean, we use Basecamp, right, for project management, which is fantastic because it makes sure that all of our projects are done. We're able to scope things out for the week or for the month, and it works really well. And for keeping track of our time, we use Function Fox. So
Fox, you said?
Yeah, Function Fox or Time Fox. So that's what we use for time tracking software. And with that, we don't bill per hour. So we don't do retainer against hours yet. Eventually we probably will as we're larger. But right now we just basically bill on retainer. And
how about for you yourself? Do you track internally how many hours your team is spending?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
100%. I mean, if it's not on account work, I like to see where the time's going.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't ask my staff to like track lunchtime or whatever, but if they're doing anything business development related or if they're checking their emails for an hour or whatever, I do generally ask them to keep track. And I don't expect everything to be perfect, but I like to know where the resources are going, So, with that software, I have it plugged in, so we have the blended rates for each of our services into the software, and it tracks the time, so that when I get those sheets at the end of the month, I could say, okay, we're billing this, and this is how much the real cost of these services should be. And if there's a very large discrepancy month after month, I say, okay, we need to raise the price on this account. So that's how I sort of use that, because other firms may use it to actually send invoices and bills, but I use it more as a benchmarking tool.
Yeah, that makes sense. And have you tried any other tools that you haven't liked? Like, you use Basecamp, you like it, right? Do you try anything else?
There's so many I use. And the truth is, it's not necessarily that I don't like them. It's just that I found better, right? So I used to use Harvest, which was a cheaper version of time tracking, but it doesn't have all the functionality of Function Fox and Time Fox.
And you save yourself time, right? You're like, that's what you're paying for, right?
Exactly. I used to use like Google for project management, right? I'd use like Google Keep or what something like that. I can't remember what it was.
G Suite?
Yeah, I use G Suite all the time now anyway, but not for project management. But I use it for project management. It just wasn't as good, right? So I mean, the softwares that we use now are more expensive, right? But they definitely pay dividends.
They're worth it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So all right, I got a question for you. So, if you had to give like one piece of advice, right, for another founder looking to create an agency like yourself, right? If I've never created an agency before and you're like Jedi, like I want to give you some advice, right? What advice would it be?
Just do it, right? Like, I mean, that's because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not ready. I need a few years of experience working in another firm or whatever. A lot of other firms are tired and they suck. I mean, I see so many shitty agencies all the time. Like, they're so bad, right? Like, they're so bad.
They lost the spark. They lost the spark.
Well, yeah, definitely. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think that you need to work at another agency unless it's a great agency. Like, if you're going to spend your precious time when you know that you're an entrepreneur and you want to build a business, go work for some of the best, right? Go work for Gollin for a year. Go work for 5W in New York for a year. go work for Sear Interactive, Will Reynolds Company. Go work for the true leaders, right? Or go work for Gary Vee in New York and VaynerMedia for a year. But don't go waste your time working at, and I'm not saying that I don't respect some of the agencies here, because there are some agencies in the city that I really look up to. Karma, being one of them. Karma Agencies is a fantastic firm. I have a lot of respect for, the founder of that firm, Kate Allison. That's great. And honestly, if I weren't so driven to build this business quickly, I would probably go work for Kate for a year, But now it's like it would not be worth it, because like I know that she wouldn't pay me to the for like what I'm used to with the business. So it's like but there's always value in working with a firm that you respect and does really great work. And there's a lot of firms that do great work, but at the same time, there's a lot of them that just aren't. They're not impressive. So.
Team culture, has a lot to do with it too. Some companies of all types are just a job, right? Whereas others are a team, right? With goals. So that makes a big difference as well.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, I mean, culture is everything, right?
Yeah.
I think culture and philosophy are both extremely important, right? How you look at the work. What's your philosophy behind it? What's your general approach? And then also, of course, culture. I think culture is a buzzword now a little bit, right? We use it a lot, and rightfully so, because culture is extremely important. But a lot of companies are kind of inauthentic with how they sell culture, right? They're just like, yeah, we're awesome, man. We have beer and beanbag chairs and a lot of vacation time. But it's like they're all bullshit a lot of times, So it's like, do I prioritize culture in this company? Absolutely. I mean, it's in the way that you structured the firm from the top down, and from the very beginning, right? So a really cool thing is, going back to Will Reynolds. I heard him speak last night too, and he said something about his company that I actually have been doing from the beginning, and he says, when people come to him and say, I want to work for you, he doesn't say people work for me. People work with me, and I do the same thing. Like I don't look at my staff as employees and a boss. I hate being called boss, right? So
same. Yeah.
Said, oh, my boss. I'm saying, like, I'm not your boss, right? I'm like, you are a team member, right? And we work together because you have skills that I don't have, and vice versa. So you're not working for me, you're working with me, right? And just because it's my firm and it's my business doesn't mean that, I can't do it without other people. So that's just one example of culture is how you view an employee, right? Because if you view them as a disposable employee, they're working for you, they're not working with you. So things like that ultimately contribute to true culture, right? And how I look at, time off, right? A lot of firms will be like, oh yeah, we have a lot of vacation time. Then you ask them, like, oh, we're busy in Q4, so I don't know if you could do that, or oh yeah, like, we put time off, right? Like if somebody wants time off, take time off. Or if somebody's like, oh, I can't come in today, like, can I work from home? Yeah, work from home. My creative director lives in New York City for the next 6 months. So cool. as long as the work's getting done, there's no reason today why everything needs to be so structured. And, I think that's how to build truly great culture. And our office is like a traditional center city, like you can see the brick, and we're at the top of a building on 16th and Walnut Street. So it might not look like we're a cool like Northern Liberties or Callawhill place, but it doesn't matter, because it's about how you treat your staff and basically how you build the company internally. I think that's what true culture is. And people use it too much as a buzzword, and they don't really understand the premise behind a truly conducive culture.
Yeah. And one in which it inspires people to be passionate about what they do, right? We implemented a unlimited vacation policy, right? And I had to force people to take vacation because people don't want to, you know what I mean? They want to be here. Yeah, they love what they're doing, and that's pretty cool. I was nervous, as an employer implementing that, and then now it's like, well, come on, somebody use it, right? And they're asking me, okay, when are the holidays? And I'm like, well, technically any day can be a holiday. You tell me,
And the thing is too, I can relate, because I'll have people here that and I have such incredible people, right? So
I
it's
know.
really is, it's out of this world. But I'll have somebody say like oh, like blah blah blah, I need to do this, that, whatever. I'm like, go home, like go home. Like, it is 7 o'clock, go home, right? And
Yeah.
like I always feel like if I'm not, because my people generally, like I usually pay on salary, right? So we're not like, people don't punch clocks, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I expect you to do work like within this time frame, but like you don't have to take it home with you as much as I do, right? So it's like, but I feel like here people really love the work, right? They love the clients, they love what we're doing, and a lot of times it's like I don't have to ask people to do more; they just do it. And sometimes I find myself being like please, like take a break, like this is not your job to carry this all around. But I mean, I think that is definitely a product of a culture that encourages great people to do great things.
Yeah. That's awesome. And, we have to wrap this up soon. And I know I said 20 minutes and we're getting close to 30, but like I really enjoyed this last part of the conversation, especially about like, the culture, like the team environment, how you treat your employees. I think a lot of people can learn from that because, it's a small difference, just changing that word from my employee, right, to my teammate, but it makes a huge impact, right? And I do think that is like a big differentiator between successful companies, real companies, companies that have passion, right, and companies that don't. So, good job with that. Yeah. Well, Jake, thank you so much for this. I did promise a 30-second shameless plug to everyone who gets interviewed here. So you have 30 seconds. What can you do for the world?
Sure. I mean, are we talking about in a corporate sense or like an impact?
Your company, yep.
My company. What can we do? Okay, well, I won't give the impact spiel because obviously we want to make an impact beyond business, but we can get you on the map. People hire us because we are digital natives and we're very good at navigating today's media landscape with the speed of 2019. People hire us generally for awareness. Driving sales, building a brand, influencing opinions, and managing reputations and fixing crisis situations. So anything related to a brand's position, awareness in the market, or their reputation is generally why people hire us. Especially people that want to see their brand brought into 2019. So.
Yeah. I love that word too, digital natives. That's pretty catchy.
It's funny because I ask, when we get big contracts, right? When we get big contracts with big firms, not hire me, right? So when we do that, I say, why did you choose us, right? And generally the answer is, it has something to do with, we want a firm that understands media today, right? I mean, and it's true because, like I said, a lot of agencies are tired and, there's a lot of room for disruption about how things are done.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing, and I know everyone in the audience is going to really appreciate it and really get a lot out of it. How can they contact you if they want to contact you?
You can just send me an email. Our website is under construction, so there's not a lot of case studies or anything up right now because God bless my creative director who's working on the internal branding. Trying to do so you can just send me an email. It's just jake@platinumbrands.com.
Okay.
Or just connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm generally pretty good at responding to messages that way. So
okay, cool, fantastic. Sounds like fun. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thanks. See you. Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.